My name is Sean Harris, and I'm originally from Atlanta, Georgia. I have a background in real estate. I'm a professional speaker and author. Actually, I saw Mr. Morrison communicating on a show with Dr. Boyce Watkins, and that's made me started to kind of dabble into it a little bit, knew that he had a background in real estate as well. And I saw that he had the fund put together, and that really interests me. Wanted to find out more about investing, and more so importantly, a Black-owned real estate fund that he had put together. So after dialoguing with some other colleagues about their investment portfolios, as well as being aware of Jay Morrison's real estate fund, that got me very interested in it, and I've always been buy Black, and that's always been important to me. I became an investor with the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. Actually, my family owned one of the first African-American owned hotels here in Atlanta. And as a result of the Highway Act of 1965, which is kind of like an eminent domain, they actually built Interstate 75 and 85 straight through where their building was located. So that was like a loss in the wealth creation for my family history. And I want to turn that around for our family future, to be able to invest in something that was Black-owned that could yield a good return. Tulsa Real Estate Fund is my first investment. I've been in real estate for about 20 years. I was attracted to the Tulsa Real Estate Fund and Jay Morrison's Academy, having a background in real estate for 20 years. And I was pretty much more so into the residential and commercial and land, and always wanted to get more involved in the investing aspect of real estate. And when I saw the Jay Morrison Academy, that really got me interested in getting more information about the investing side. You know, being in real estate for 20 years, I knew the different ways to be able to invest with, without money. But when I was watching a lot of the content that Jay Morrison was putting out, as far as just different options, and I watched one video where he was talking about renter's credit. And 20 years in real estate, I never knew that. So that really appealed to me. And in real estate or in any profession, you also want to be continuously growing. So that's what really got me interested in pulling the trigger and moving forward with the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. A lot of my colleagues that I talked to about real estate and just stocks and investing in general gave me a lot of good insight. A lot of people, I actually just spoke with one of my colleagues today. He's actually one of my business mentors in public speaking, and he actually shared the stage with Jay Morrison a couple years ago, and he was very interested in the Tulsa Fund as well. And a lot of my colleagues that I did converse with related to investing with Jay, they all had good feedback. Many people have heard of Jay Morrison and with the corner classes, and that really appealed to me, to be able to see that a person who could come back and share with the community what he's learned and openly sharing that with people. And that is what makes the connection. You can have a head-to-head connection, or you can have a heart-to-heart connection. And I think most of the people who are moving forward with the Tulsa Real Estate Fund are doing so because of the heart-to-heart connection. As a real estate professional, I think it's important for our community to be able to invest in real estate, because that's the staple of true wealth. You have different, I like to call it a trifecta of wealth, which would be business ownership, investment funds, but more importantly, real estate. And without the three of them coming together, you're not going to get the full benefit of creating generational wealth. And I think that's just something that we in our community have to empower our children with the knowledge, the financial literacy on how to do that. A good takeaway I like to be able to share with my family, my children, is to be able to see that their parents took part in a historical part in history where it could be the turning point of the African American community, where it comes to the shift in financial wealth, where we can now create strong financial lineage with our children. It's like when we teach our kids just regular information, whether it's just regular sight words or learning the basics of math, it's equally, if not more important, to teach financial literacy. We teach our kids through using pretend money, looks like U.S. money, but it's a miniature size, and they actually conduct business around the house, making transactions with money. So if they want snacks, they'll actually pay money for that, just to keep their keep. to be able to be picked up from the school bus. It's a fee according to that, attached to that. So what we want to do is teach them the dynamics of finances. We play the game of Monopoly just to teach them the basics of the 4 greenhouses, 1 red hotel, and you understand what it means to have equity, have ownership in something, and that is going to be the basic of creating that generational wealth that we were striving for. I think the best way to change the dynamics of being able to further educate our community is that we have to start at a young age. You know, these are things that we're not taught in school. And oftentimes we get into our professions or our careers and we're still not aware of these things. You know, our business acumen or business savvy just isn't where it needs to be as a community. Other communities, they tend to learn this stuff at earlier ages. You know, when they just kind of walking about, they say, hey, and they actually walk through, hey, you see that sign in the yard? That means they're selling the house. And the way the selling process takes place, and they'll walk their children through it. And oftentimes, I think in our community, we may look at it as, well, why are they wasting time explaining that? But it's getting into the psyche and it's sinking in like a sponge, and at a later time, it'll come back out when that child is ready to make that move. And one of the things we're doing with our kids, you know, when a lot of us in our generation, we always wanted a car for our 16th birthday typically, but we already have the works for our children to have properties, and we're looking more so for multifamily units as a graduation gift. So you have far more economic power when you have a child who has perhaps a duplex, a triplex, or even a quadplex, where they're living in one and collecting rents from the other 3 as the landlord. Now they can focus on their studies if they decided to go to college. So the real estate, asset producing income, which is the real estate, will actually buy their tuition. So they won't have a student loan. When they get out, they still have the asset producing income to continue that as a business. You have equity in it, so they have different options, but more importantly, they won't have a student loan at the time of graduation. I'm an honorary founder. When I heard the call go out that the IPO was released on June the 1st, I was sitting at the computer at 11:55 waiting for the clock to tick by. And the cool thing about it, I know a lot of people may have panicked, but I got excited when I saw that the system crashed, because that meant that people were doing what we needed them to do. And I think I finally got through that next morning, about 5:30 in the morning, and was able to log in, handle my business, got my shares, and became an honorary member with the Tulsa Real Estate Fund. Why was it important for you to become an honorary fund? I've always found myself as a leader. I like to do things first, so I didn't want to be the one on 11:59 on the second, the next night or whatever. I like to lead from the front, and more importantly, be able to set an example. And this is history being written. So when you look down the road, the last thing you want to do is look in your kids' eyes or your grandkids and say, Dad or Granddad, why didn't you? And I could proudly be able to say, I did, and won't have to be the ones of regret saying, I wish I would have. On IPO day, it was a great feeling just to know that this was, like you said, it's Super Bowl day. It's game day in the Black financial world. And it was a great opportunity to take part. And my parents come from an entrepreneurial background, all the way back from my great uncle who owned the hotel I was telling you about here in Atlanta. And it was just important to be able to build upon what the previous generation has built. You know, and during what was called the Chitlin Circuit here on Auburn Avenue, my family had one of the first Black-owned hotels there. And when I look back at the dynamics of the civil rights and pre-civil rights, just the accomplishments that they made was a huge feat. And, you know, that gives me a great sense of pride. My parents owned their own businesses. So as the 3rd or 4th generation of business owners in my family, it was only that much more important to be able to be a part of something that was attached to Black ownership. As an honorary founder of the Tulsa Real Estate Fund, I would like to see education being implemented even more in the youth. I know the J. Morrison Academy is dealing, I was watching a video today where they were talking with the interns, and that's what's important, is to be able to get this current generation who understands that go to school, get good grades, get a good job is not the route to go anymore. I teach my kids, go to school, get okay grades, and go build a business. And you do that through multiple sources, through investments, also through real estate purchases. So I like to be able to see this generation being a turning point whereby the African American community can grow leaps and bounds and become an economical, viable force to be reckoned with. What I would like to see for the Tulsa Real Estate Fund moving forward and in the future is an opportunity for African Americans to be able to take part in the American dream, which is home ownership, commercial ownership, to be able to acquire loans necessary, to be able to partner with other African American owned investors, to be able to do big purchases. There's a lot of growth going on here in the Atlanta area. We have skyscrapers going up on a daily basis. And I'd like to be able to see the fund be able to help black builders, black business owners, black developers to be able to take part in the wealth creation of what's going on here in the city, nationally, and also globally. I think people that are teeter-tottering on the fence as far as making a decision to invest, it's critically important to invest. A lot of times people are, I think in our community, they're afraid of investing. They're afraid of the stock market. And I think they're afraid many times because of the unknown. And it's kind of like I always explain to people, they say, well, Sean, I don't understand how it works. And I always tell them, well, you may not understand the dynamics or the laws of gravity, but if you walk to the top of this building, take one step forward, the law of gravity will be proven, whether you understand it or not. So a lot of times, it's kind of like walking and talking. You kind of have to learn as you go, on-the-job training. But to get off the fence and make the decision to make an investment, you have the ball rolling, and we can learn in the process. Former military, a lot of times we have the ideology of if someone says duck, just duck, and we'll figure out the rest of it later. So you don't have to know, here's what I learned. Successful people don't have to know everything, they just need to know enough. And the enough part is getting off the fence to make the decision to invest and then educate yourself along the way. I'm Sean Harris, and I am proud to partner with the Tulsa Real Estate Fund.